Just now, a chilling detail has surfaced in the Tyler Robinson case, and it has left many people unsettled, not only because of what was revealed, but because of who revealed it. The roommate, someone who shared space, conversations, and trust, ended up handing over private messages to the FBI. And tonight we are asking the questions that very few dare to ask. Why would a friend, a roommate, a close confidant make such a move? Was it fear? Was it pressure? Was it a calculated decision? Or was it something deeper, something tied to power, politics, and influence? From the outside, it looks like a simple act of cooperation, but when you peel back the layers, it becomes something far more complex, far more unsettling. We live in a world where digital footprints tell more about us than our own words in person. Every text, every late-night conversation, every casual thought typed on a screen can suddenly become evidence, can suddenly be weaponized. And in Tyler's case, it was his own roommate who became the bridge between his private world and the federal government. And that brings us to the bigger question. Who really benefits from this? Was this a case of conscience, or was it convenience? As you listen closely, I want you to consider what loyalty really means. If your closest roommate, the person you confide in, the person who sees you at your most vulnerable, suddenly handed over your private conversations, how would you react? How would you ever feel safe again? And this is not just about Tyler. This is about a larger climate where trust has been fractured, where people are quietly encouraged to turn on each other, where politics plays a dangerous role in shaping narratives that affect real lives. Now, you've heard the name Charlie Kirk connected to this, and that adds another layer of tension, because when politics enters the room, truth becomes harder to separate from spin. Tyler Robinson's case is no longer just about personal choices. It's about influence, about movements, about who gets to control the story. Why did the roommate step forward at this exact moment? Why not earlier? Why not later? Was there an external hand guiding the timing? Was it a moral decision or a strategic one? These are the questions that remain unanswered, but the more you think about them, the more disturbing they become. And here's where the emotional weight truly hits. Tyler likely never expected betrayal to come from so close, from inside his own home. Imagine the sense of isolation, the realization that the walls around you hold secrets, that your trust was not only broken, but used as evidence. This is not just a headline, it's a warning. And as shocking as it sounds, this pattern has repeated itself across countless high-profile cases. We need to pause here and reflect on what this means for all of us. If messages between two people living under the same roof can suddenly be transformed into federal evidence, then where does privacy end and surveillance begin? And if politics is the invisible thread pulling these actions together, then who among us can truly say we're safe from the same fate? As we unpack this, I want you to realize something important. This channel is dedicated to giving you the real story, the updates that others avoid, the truths that others hesitate to bring forward. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because every time we dig into a story like this, we bring forward questions and details that shape the bigger picture. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next in this case. Because here's the twist. The roommate's action is not only about Tyler. It may be part of a broader pattern. Multiple insiders are quietly stepping forward in different cases, providing evidence, shifting narratives, but the motives are not always pure. Some are driven by fear of prosecution, others by the promise of protection, and some, yes, by the lure of influence. And when a high-profile figure like Charlie Kirk enters the conversation, the lines blur even further. Was Tyler simply caught in a web much larger than himself? The danger is that once narratives are set, they rarely get corrected, and that's why this update matters so much. We are not just talking about a man, his roommate, and some messages. We are talking about how truth is shaped, how justice is pursued, and how easily trust can be turned into betrayal. And I want you to stay with me, because over the next several minutes, we are going to explore each layer, each possibility, each unanswered question. We are going to connect the dots that others are ignoring, and by the time we reach the end, you may not look at trust, loyalty, and politics the same way again. So keep listening, keep questioning, and make sure you subscribe right now, because this story is only getting started. Now, let's peel back the curtain on the role of the FBI in this entire situation, because understanding how and why they operate is essential to understanding why Tyler Robinson's roommate made the choice that changed everything. The FBI doesn't simply show up at your door without preparation. When they come, they often already know what they're looking for. They build timelines, they track communication, they map relationships, and then they focus on the weakest link, the person most likely to cooperate. And in Tyler's case, that weak link was not a stranger, not a distant acquaintance, but the very person who lived under the same roof. The roommate didn't just hand over random information. No, he provided messages, conversations that were meant to stay private. And the real question here is, what made him cross that line? Was it fear of being implicated? Was it the weight of authority pressing down on him? Or was it something else entirely? Something orchestrated, something timed to make maximum impact? Because the timing is suspicious. Think about it. Why did this happen exactly when political conversations were heating up, when certain voices were dominating the airwaves, when Charlie Kirk's name was already stirring headlines? Coincidence or coordination? And here's where you, the viewer, must pause and really think. If law enforcement can convince someone as close as a roommate to hand over personal messages, then how safe are your own private communications? What does this mean for trust, for friendship, for the very idea of confidentiality? Remember, Tyler Robinson didn't hand those messages over. His roommate did. And that raises another disturbing possibility. What if the roommate wasn't acting alone? What if he was promised protection, immunity, or even influence? Because history shows us that when the government wants information, they rarely just ask politely. They offer deals, they create pressure, and they find leverage. This brings us back to the political angle, because once Charlie Kirk's name enters the frame, the situation changes. Suddenly, it's no longer about Tyler and his roommate. It's about narratives, about control, about whose voice gets amplified and whose gets silenced. Could it be that Tyler was just a piece in a larger game, a convenient pawn in a battle of influence? That's not speculation. It's a pattern we've seen before. In past cases, associates, friends, even family members have been turned against each other in order to build a larger story that fits a particular agenda. And here's the emotional weight of this revelation. Imagine Tyler's realization. The person he trusted most, the person who shared his daily life, became the one who opened the door to everything collapsing. That kind of betrayal is more than personal. It's shattering. And betrayal doesn't just destroy trust between two people. It echoes into society. Because if loyalty can be so easily broken, then what do we really have left? This isn't just about messages. It's about the human cost of a system that thrives on flipping insiders, on breaking bonds, on turning trust into evidence. And the saddest part? Tyler Robinson isn't the first to face this, and he won't be the last. History is filled with names of people who thought their inner circles were secure, only to find out that their own companions were the very reason they fell. And I want you to hold on to that thought, because in the next layer, we're going to look at how this decision, this act of betrayal, doesn't just affect Tyler. It ripples outward. It affects public trust. It affects how people engage with politics. And it raises questions about whether we are living in an age where privacy is not just fragile, but extinct. Before we go deeper, I want to remind you, this channel is here to give you what others won't. The real angles, the hidden details, the patterns nobody dares to connect. If you're watching right now and haven't yet subscribed, take a second to do it. Because stories like this don't just stop at the headlines. They grow, they evolve, and you need to hear the truth as it unfolds. Now, let's move forward, because the next piece of this puzzle reveals even more disturbing possibilities. Now, let's take this a step further, because the decision by Tyler Robinson's roommate to hand over those messages to the FBI didn't happen in a vacuum. Think about the environment we live in today. Information is currency. Whoever controls it controls the story. And in this case, the roommate became the pipeline, the access point, the one who turned what should have been personal and private into something public, something political, something weaponized. And that raises a chilling reality. Maybe it was never really about Tyler at all. Maybe it was about what his words could be turned into, how they could be framed, how they could be used in a much bigger fight. The FBI by nature is strategic. They don't move unless the timing matters. They don't push unless there's something to gain. So if the roommate provided the messages at this precise moment, then the timing itself is a clue. Why now? Why when Charlie Kirk's name is already making headlines? Why when political stakes are so high? These are not coincidences. They are signals. And those signals tell us one thing. The Tyler Robinson case is more than a personal story. It's a piece of a larger puzzle where narratives are built carefully, layer by layer, to shape public opinion. And here's the emotional angle we cannot ignore. Tyler Robinson probably believed, like many of us do, that privacy still meant something, that the walls of his own home kept his conversations safe. To discover that your own roommate, the person you trusted most, chose to step forward and hand those private words to authorities, that kind of betrayal cuts deeper than almost anything else. It's not just betrayal, it's devastation. And when betrayal is mixed with politics, it doesn't just affect one person, it shakes entire communities. It makes people question whether they can trust anyone at all. This is where it gets dangerous, because once people lose trust, not just in their friends, but in the very idea of confidentiality, society changes. People grow silent. They censor themselves. They no longer feel free to express what they believe. And isn't that exactly what those in power want? Silence, control, and the ability to use selective truths to keep shaping the story their way. So ask yourself, was Tyler Robinson betrayed out of fear? Did his roommate act because of moral conviction? Or was he simply pushed into becoming a piece of something far larger than himself? We may never know his private reasoning, but the effect is clear. His choice altered the course of Tyler's life, and it added fuel to a fire that was already burning in the political arena. And here's the final thought I want to leave you with tonight. If this can happen to Tyler, it can happen to anyone. If your closest friend, your roommate, your confidant can suddenly become the very reason your words are taken out of your hands and delivered to investigators, then privacy itself is already gone. And when names like Charlie Kirk are pulled into the conversation, it shows us just how quickly individual stories can be absorbed into political battles far bigger than the people at the center. That's why you need to stay alert, because this case isn't over. It's evolving. More will come out, more layers will be revealed, and the story will keep shifting. And on this channel, we will keep following it closely, bringing you the updates others don't dare to touch. So if you haven't already, subscribe now, hit that button, join us, and make sure you stay with us, because the truth doesn't reveal itself all at once. It comes piece by piece, layer by layer. And trust me when I say, the biggest revelations in the Tyler Robinson case are still to come.